Hey guys, welcome or welcome back. Tisha here, back for another Love and Marriage Huntsville. This is season 10, episode 3, More or Less the Favorite. Do me a favor, hit the like button. Kimmy. I am looking at you differently, girl. I am. I do not see how you married someone that you saw treated your child differently and you seem to be okay with it. I get that you're sitting here and you're saying that you talked to him about it, but can you imagine how your child felt and seeing that nothing changed when it came to that? I don't, I Kimmy used to be my favorite. And now I just look at her and I see that she's just not who I thought she was in the beginning. But we'll get to that section. Let's start where it all began. With last episode, we were left with the clowns fighting. This episode, we open up with Ken acting like he is the Incredible Hulk. Why is it, because they showed the clip again, that Ken didn't get up to go to fight Marquez until Marquez asked for assistance from like the camera people or production? Like, are y'all going to interject here? And then you want to get up and put your hands on him. And why are y'all yelling and carrying on like this when the whole time, I'm guessing both kids, because we later see Xavier come down while they're upstairs, and y'all don't think that what you're doing is wrong? Come on. You're doing all of this arguing, and Xavier is walking down the stairs as Ken is obviously hitting his father, and then his father is Xavier is reaching out to kind of touch him, kind of knocks into his son and walks out the door. And what does Xavier do? He follows behind his dad. So as much as you want to sit here and act like they don't need him and all these other things, one of those two kids always seems to come to his father's rescue, and he shouldn't have to. It's whack. It's so whack to me. The issue here is with Ken, Marquez, and Trisha, that Trisha likes to keep this crap going. That Trisha didn't end her situation with her husband before she started a new one with Ken. That not only did you date this man, but you decided to get a home with him and have your kids in that situation without finalizing your other one. And every time you sit there and smirk, even as you talk about it in confessional like it's cute, it irritates me, because you're a grown behind woman. Your son is old enough to understand what's going on, and you're sitting there smiling like it's something cute. It's not cute. She's problematic AF, and I can't stand her. Marquez may do way too much, but Ken oversteps every single time without fail. Get across the table, put a mediator in the middle of it, and figure it out. Ken doesn't need to be involved. Ken is not a parent. He's not a step parent. He's not a soon to be step parent. Nothing like that. He's her boyfriend. Ugh. End scene. Y'all really put a to be continued for 35 seconds of exchange that we didn't even see, and him rushing out. Like, really? Come on, Carlos. Do better. So we got Kimmy and Maurice for this supposed date night that involves them, I guess, being at their Airbnb, them drinking tea at the fire. Doesn't seem like a date to me, but they're calling it date night. She spoke to Jaylen because she went to go see him. That's her little homie, about doing a family business with the two of them and their children. So Maurice, Jaylen, MJ, I'm calling him MJ because I don't want to call him Monster, MJ, and Kimmy. Neither one of the kids are feeling it, mainly because of how much Maurice likes to hear himself talk, of how much of a dictator he is. Kimmy says, I was talking to him and something came up. You know, Jaylen never felt like you were a father figure to him. So he's like looking at him like looking at her like he's confused. And she's like, you know, he felt like you were more of a homeboy. I wouldn't even say he felt like he was a homeboy, because I never felt like Jaylen was extremely comfortable with Maurice. I think that he tolerated him. I don't think that he had much of a say in the matter. He just wanted his mother to be happy, and that meant it going from it just being the two of them to having this man come in into their house and then trying to run stuff. And I don't think Kimmy did that transition well. So he says that she says that he looked at Marceau more like a father figure. Of course, this makes Maurice feel away because he just feels like he should be, I guess, the father of the year. My thoughts on this is, at this point, what's done is done. He's not a little boy anymore. He's been put through college from his mother. He's bought a home. He's venturing out. He's not in your house. It doesn't even seem like you really go over there to check in on him. So there's no point in even addressing it now unless it's something that you're really trying to work through. But I don't feel like Maurice is trying to work through anything. I think he's just trying to navigate it so that he doesn't seem like he's a bad father, when really I don't think he's that great of a father to either one of those boys. Those are my thoughts. Tell me yours. So we see the Fletchers. They're at home talking about some changes that they're going to be making. We find out that they have the realtor business, the custodial business, as well as the daycare. Now, Nell is currently taking some, I think she said 4-star classes for her daycare. Basically, they're going to need to make some changes. It's going to be a better curriculum, more educational, things of that nature. And if she can get the 4-star, then that means that she will get additional funding from the government. And that's always a plus because that's guaranteed business. So they go from that to talking about the ladies. And she's like, I haven't really heard from Tisha or any of them really since not Vegas, Los Angeles, or where I think they were in LA for the reunion, basically since the reunion. That's because a lot of them ain't really the friends that they think they are, but whatever. She says, and Destiny either. She went from, my words, counseling Mel to apparently she was counseling Destiny too, staying on the phone with her for all these hours and spending a lot of time with her. I really, really think that Nell doesn't understand that in friendship, you talk to your friends about your problems. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're counseling them, but she likes to feel important. So we're going to let her have her title and say that she was counseling them. So she says that she's been bothered with Destiny ever since Destiny made that comment about wanting to reevaluate things because of the whole Sunny situation. And at this point, she doesn't know if that's standing because of what happened with her inviting Sunny to her bachelorette party, or if it's because of what's transpired with Lance. I think it's a combination of the two. I do. So she's like, well, do you think I should talk to her? And Chris is like, well, if you see her, I do think that you should pull her to the side and talk about it. If you really cared, you would have called her a long time ago and spoken about it. So y'all are clearly just doing this for the show. So Kimmy meets with the ladies to catch up. Carlos, to me, is still trying to find an anchor, and I still don't see one. Tisha's going to keep some stuff moving along because Tisha makes a lot of comments here and there, but I don't see an anchor in any of these women as of yet. So it's Nell, Tisha, Trish, and Kimmy. Destiny couldn't make it because she's busy selling candles and other Madani products on TikTok. So Trish decides to talk about Marquez yet again because that's all she could talk about. Y'all, notice the scenes with Trish and the Incredible Hulk and see what they talk about. Every time it's that man. What else do they have other than that man? The man and working out. They can go. So Kimmy brings up how Jaylen said that, Marceau was more of a father figure to him. Tisha's like, yeah, well, there was this and there was that. Tisha, we don't need you to explain things. Either way, he felt like he can confide in Marceau more. So Kimmy says, Maurice was hands off, and Jaylen is the type of child that gravitates towards people who gravitate towards him. Kimmy, that's your fault. That is your fault because you saw that he was hands off with your kid before you got married to him. I'm not saying he should have overly inserted himself the way that Ken has, but it seems to me like he didn't really bother with him at all, especially if later on he's saying that the only time he really said much to him is when he needed to correct him on something. So Tisha feels like Jaylen needed to come to Maurice and embrace him more as a father. And I don't agree with that because at the time when he became a part of Kimmy's life, he was still a child. It is not his job to cultivate that dynamic. It is the adult in this situation job to do that. Kimmy and Maurice failed that young man. So we find out that Nell found out about Lance's baby in LA the same time as everybody else, so she says, and that he's been dealing with this woman who is the mother of his child off and on for 5 years. So you cheated on your wife with this lady too? I'm confused. And if it's been that long, why aren't you with the lady? Now maybe he is. If you know, put it down below. So she went into labor while they were wrapping up with the reunion. So Nell and Chris and them had to hurry up and go back. Tisha tells her, like, I'm glad you kind of cleared that up because I was kind of side eyeing you when it came to that. Cause I was like, not now knowing that she had a grandbaby on the way, and yet she's trying to like push them together and saying that she wouldn't mind Destiny dating her son and all that other stuff. And I was like, look, I didn't know anything about that. Destiny and Lance, I don't have anything to do with that situation and who he's dating. I don't believe Nell. I think Nell knew. I don't think that that lady hid being pregnant all that time, and I don't think that he hid it from them all that time because they very much so seem to be intertwined. They work businesses and things of that nature together. Y'all knew something. So she's like, as far as her and Destiny's concerned, she wasn't feeling some of the stuff, so she doesn't, know what that whole situation is. But at this point, Nell is tired of them asking questions. So she hurries up and flips it. And she talks to Tisha and Kimmy. And she wants to know how they feel about what Martell said in his interview. If y'all remember, the interview was with Ariane and the mistress of Maur, who also supposedly slept with Maurice. This is all alleged, right? And they had the talks, and the girl talked about this and how they did that and how they did stuff at Credit One and all these other things, right? That was all said in the interview. So rather than answering the question about how she feels about it, Tisha's like, well, now how do you feel about it? Which is irrelevant because nothing was said in that about Nell. It was about your men. So Nell's like, I thought it was a lot, while Trisha's laughing, saying that she thought it was fake and it was like some ghetto backyard mess and it was just, it was a mess. So Kimmy claims that she laughed about it. Kimmy, 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 you are the same person who got upset with the picture that was put out of the guys that same weekend that Ariane was there. You're the same person who got upset with Mel for mentioning the stuff that was on social media about your husband looking like he had lipstick on. And you mean to tell me that you were unbothered by this person alleging that she slept with your man? Come on. Come on. Now I know that Martell lies a lot to the point where he lies so much that when he tells the truth, you don't always know if it's the truth. But he does have tells. Like he gets to stuttering and stuff when he's lying. So he wasn't doing a whole bunch of stuttering in that video. I think that is true. I think that because that young lady looked a certain way that they thought that it wasn't possible, but she did not look like that back then. And how many of y'all seen beautiful, gorgeous women be cheated on by basic females? Like for men, not to say it like that, we'll say for people, it doesn't always matter looks. Looks isn't always a thing. I believe that that young lady who spoke with Ariane and Martell was telling the truth. But y'all tell me what you think. So Tisha said, look, because Nell was like, I was more surprised by your live. Was it Nell or was it Trish who said it? One of them said it. And Tisha was like, look, no lies were told. I didn't tell any lies in my live. Notice how Carlos didn't re-show that. He showed a little bit of a headline for what Martell alleged with the mistresses, but he didn't do that for Tisha. So he's still trying to protect his thing, which I get it. You don't want somebody to out someone like that. Tisha tells us that unlike Nell, she's an open book. I don't feel like any of them are being an open book But if that's what you want to say, we got it. So Tisha says, look, at this point, if you have an issue with anyone at the table, now is the time to talk about it. And Nell claims that she doesn't have an issue with anybody right now. Nell, you going out bad. You looking real fake and phony to me, sweetie. You are, Miss Nell. You are looking really fake and phony, because don't go home later on and talk junk when you get to Fletcher and say things to Fletcher, and then get upset when these ladies come back at you, because Scott 1.0 and 2.0, understand, they're about to gang up on you, sis. They're about to gather you, and you're gonna wish that you had other allies, because I don't think you have any at this point. I'm looking on the screen. Who's her ally going to be? Trish? Nah. Martell is in it for himself. Martell is too busy just trying to break up all the other marriages since his is over with. So who are you going to rely upon? So while Tisha says she told Kimmy, oh, Tisha goes, I told Kimmy, like, I don't know about the Fletchers, man. I don't know. So now I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, your husband, what he said, we didn't like that NDA comment. Kimmy then says Maurice felt a way about it, especially because given the things that are out there, what the Fletchers have put out there about themselves and infidelity, that they never made jokes about it. Other people may have, but they didn't. And I just feel like for these men to be so, ooh, if you really felt a way, that's what I meant by ooh. For them to be so manly and so alpha, which isn't always a good thing, you would think that they would approach one another if they have an issue, but they don't do that. And I think part of the reason why they don't do that is because they have a lot of secrets about each other, and none of them really want them to get out. That's my opinion. Tell me yours. So we then see Jaylen and Maurice meet up to play pool. Maurice, you knew you were going to meet up with this boy to play pool. Why are you wearing a suit? You're so lame. So we find out Jaylen is an IT specialist, and he's also doing some construction things on the side, but he's ready for a change. He wants something new. So he has an interview set up, and if he gets the job, he'll be moving to Colorado. Maurice then brings up the family business, and Jaylen says he's hesitant. He knows the Scotts well, and he wants them to all be hands in equally if that's what they're going to do, because they have a tendency to push things off on other people. He feels like Maurice will just be dictating, and he'll end up picking up other people's slack. For example, like MJ, the same way he did growing up. He says that they were always harder on him, especially Maurice, to the point where he would need something to be done. And rather than asking his son, who was right there playing a video game, he would instead get Jaylen to do it, right? Which doesn't seem like a big deal. But in the bigger scheme of things, if you're already doing all these things, and if you already have more responsibilities than this young man that's just going to school and coming home versus this other one who's going to school and working and doing other things, then I can see how that would be problematic, especially if he's being expected to clean up after MJ, because we know Kimmy was expected to clean up after MJ. So why wouldn't Jaylen be expected to do that either? And rather than him really understanding where Jaylen is coming from, he talks about how, you parent your children differently. And he's like, did it work? It worked. Did it though? Because if Kimmy was fighting cancer and worried about him cleaning up his room and washing dishes, I don't think that it worked. If it worked, he would have been doing that automatically, period. Not only that, I don't really see Maurice as that great of a father figure. This conversation with the DUI proved that. So he felt like he loved MJ more because that's his son. He's like, you really feel that way? Action speaks louder than words. Yes, he feels that way. Even in this conversation, I'm watching Jaylen, and he doesn't seem that comfortable with him. Like they don't even seem like they're friendly. Y'all tell me what you think. So Jaylen's like, look, you helped me learn how to change toilets and dishwashers and tires. You were like a mentor. Jaylen says, I didn't want to be disappointed if things didn't work out with you and my mom. And it just, to me, Jaylen, you picking the nicest way to tell this man that he ain't ish, that he isn't ish. And it's simple as that. Maurice to me, can't handle the fact that this young man is telling him about himself. And rather than listen to him, he's trying to make excuses for it. And even with that whole comment about how you parent differently, yeah, you parent differently when it comes to certain things, but chores are chores. Expectations are expectations. Um, so Maurice says, it's different in that type of dynamic. When you choose to marry someone with a kid, then you're choosing to have a relationship with the kid. But did you really do that? I don't think so. So Hulk is back. He's meeting with Will, his friend from last season, and Chris. We find out that Lance painted Ken's gym and he was quick with it, unlike how he is when Nell asks him to do projects. So Ken starts talking about Marquez again, him walking in the house, the invite, all that other stuff, Marquez playing with him, and then him getting physical with him. How many times are we going to hear this story and different variations of it? Because both Trish and Ken seem to leave stuff out and make it seem like he was just antagonizing them when y'all got up in his face and did stuff too. So Chris tells him, like, you don't have to deal with him, right? I'm trying to figure out why you're sticking around. So he wants to know if he just likes to solve puzzles, which is the same way that Will feels, because he's looking at how his friend is, and he feels like his friend just likes a challenge, because this is his pattern. Last season he said this about him being this type of person, so it's nothing new. Now Hulk is a little defensive. He's blaming Marquez for all their problems, saying that before he came along they were great. It was 2 years and y'all weren't great, because how could you be great with a woman that you knew was married? Will's like, you got all these different puzzle pieces. Some stuff may be missing. And he was like, no, we got an extra piece, which is, Marquez. And Will's like, I just want you to put the puzzle back in the box. He's like, Ken, this is on you. You're not stuck. You want to be stuck. I feel like Ken likes being needed. Will says if it was him, that Trish would be a thing of the past. In other words, he would be done. And that's the end of that scene. It's the same conversation over and over. We saw this conversation last year, Carlos. It's boring me. I gotta be honest, y'all. I was so hyped the first episode, and then we come to this, and it's just like, I think it's gonna pick up, but I don't care about Trish and Ken. So the Scotts meet up. They talk about DEI, which has nothing to do with this situation. In my opinion, DEI served about 4% of Black people. Unpopular opinion, DEI was really for people with disabilities and Caucasian women. I'm just going to be honest about it. It was. People don't see it as that, but if you really look into it, that's what it was about. So Marceau wants to talk to his brother about Jaylen, because he now knows that Jaylen feels like Maurice's son was favored. As soon as he mentions his name, Maurice is like, he talked to you. Then Maurice brings up the whole dad comment. He's like, he didn't feel like I was a dad. He felt like I was a father figure. He says same thing. Maurice thinks that him and Jaylen are good, that he heard him. But did you hear Jaylen? Because I don't think you did. Maurice starts to make all types of excuses, talks about how they grew up and how the oldest, were treated differently because they were older. They were like, mini parents. So he did the same thing with him. Kimmy's like, I saw the difference too. Kimmy, I'm side-eyeing you again. And she says that she did mention it before, even before MJ moved in. Kimmy, I'm side-eyeing you again because you saw he was treating your son differently and you still married him. She felt like he always came down on her son and you still married him. It was hard for her son and you still married him. Her son felt like by Marceau. So Marceau tells his brother, it's hard to talk to you. I'm just concerned, because he starts to like interject and say, but da da da. He's like, no, bro. I need you to understand that I'm concerned because it's hard to talk to you. He's like, I can relate because, I grew up with the golden child. He's talking about his brother, Maurice. He's like, and Jaylen sees the golden child as Monster, his words, 2.0. Now the brothers are going back and forth because Maurice is a defensive and he calls his brother a liar. I think that Maurice is who a lot of people thought Marceau was. I think that he got away with some of that for the first couple years because he had all his Martin Luther King speeches and he seemed to be like this guy that was just trying to be better or whatever. But I think that he is just as bad, if not worse, than Marceau. But you all let me know your opinions on this. Put your comments down below. I may be late to comment because in a couple hours, it will be my birthday, and I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break from the comment section for the next couple of days to just enjoy doing nothing. But no worries. If you come here for the other content, I've already pre-recorded it all, and it's patiently waiting to be released. Anyways, thank you guys so much. Have a great evening. If there's something that I missed that you want to talk about, feel free to put it down below. Until next time, peace.